Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Protoss, where representing himself on the main hatchery, we have the #1 player in the world, ranked by himself. We're looking at none other than Dark's main base. His opponent, down in the bottom left, a Protoss player that recently completed his mandatory military service over in South Korea, and he's been playing some very funky Protoss versus Zerg strats. We're looking at Zoun's main nexus. So I've been intrigued by Zoun's build orders as of late. So what Zoun has been doing is go for a Void Ray first, and then follow it up with another Void Ray, and then follow it up with another Void Ray, and then go into a Twilight Council, and then he builds Charge, but then he doesn't actually attack, but instead he decides to just build another Nexus and play Macro and then eventually go Skytools. It makes very little sense. I'm not entirely sure how he's pulling it off, but he's been winning against some of the very best players in the world, playing a strategy that I have not yet seen before. So, Dark is a very tricky opponent. Obviously, Dark is not really somebody who is ever intimidated, and he is, well, the one that generally comes up with the wild and wacky stuff. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think if Dark were to play more Protoss versus Zerg himself right now, there's a good chance that he's going to be using some of those Zoun build orders, because they really do look more like Dark than they do look like Zoun, even though Zoun is the one that's playing them. Does this still make any sense? I still think it makes sense, yes. I'm saying Zoun is a lot like Dark, and Dark is a lot like Zoun, and lately Zoun has been playing weird builds. And Dark has been trying to play a lot more conventional strategies instead. As a matter of fact, he's been playing a lot of Protoss himself, because apparently he's not really enjoying the Zerg side of things as much at this point in time. Okay, so for now though, everything's very normal. We've got ourselves a hatchery first on the low ground. We've got ourselves a fast Nexus 2 on the other side of the map. Cybernetics core is now done. I'm assuming we're gonna have a Stargate right over here. Come on. Ah! So close. So close. I almost had a lot of people hitting the like button because I was going to be able to get it right within that square. To be fair, I was trying to put a circular building inside of a square. You know, it's just like me when I was a child. Trying to jam the circular block into... Anyway, third hatchery going down on the other side of the map too. And it all comes down, of course, to that early game defense. So, the gold standard in this matchup for Protoss is to make oracles, right? You go oracle, and then usually you make 2 to 3 of them, and then you transition into Blink Stalker. We have been seeing a lot of Protoss players experiment with a Void Ray into an Oracle, or sometimes a Void Ray into Oracle, right? Like we have seen some variety. There it is again. Zoun is loving the Void Ray. Now I know this may not be too surprising if you're a ladder hero in StarCraft 2, because every single Protoss player under the sun below the pro level loves Void Rays. They've been loving Void Rays since 2010. To be fair, that was a very different unit. It looked like a Void Ray. Its name was Void Ray, but the unit was very different. As a matter of fact, if you have been watching StarCraft for a long time, the Void Ray has been changed a lot. Back in the day, it had 3 different charged up phases. So, the longer it would attack an individual target, the thicker the beam would become. And it dealt maximum damage when it had the thickest possible beam. Now, this got really weird at some point, because Protoss players, they went for like Void Ray all-ins, and they would like try to hide Void Rays near rocks that were close to the opponent's main base. Then they would attack the rocks, and then they would go into the main base. So basically, when the beam was at its thickest, that's when they would commit. Yeah. And it got really weird at some point, because I remember specifically, I think this was Whitera, Protoss player, who came up with a build where you didn't attack rocks, because a lot of maps didn't feature rocks anymore at that point in time. He instead attacked his own Void Rays with his Void Rays. So one Void Ray attacked the guy next to him, then the next Void Ray attacked the guy next to him, until their beams were extra thick, and then they engaged. And obviously you could do that right over here. And then, you know, you could go straight into the main base and have the Voids deal maximum damage, albeit with some of their shields depleted. It was a bit silly. They've overhauled the unit. It was actually very fun now that I'm thinking about it. Ooh, okay. Little overly aggressive. Zoun gets away with the Oracle. Killing 2 drones. Void right now. Still going around. Already, well, killing a single Overlord so far, but nothing all too crazy. So, Zoun look, he's going for this weird stuff again. If he goes charge here, I think he is. That's the build I'm talking about. And it doesn't really make sense, because this looks to me like it's an aggressive opener. One where you want to hit your opponent in the face. But he goes into charge and then into storm. Yep, there it is. This is a macro build. This doesn't look like a macro build to me at all. But we're just going into good old storm. And we're just going to try and play macro off of this. So, first off, we need a name for this build order. I'm taking suggestions, because this is something fresh. I don't really know if it's here to stay, but we need a name for this build. Please let me know down below. That'd be great. And secondly, I'm trying to figure out what Zerg's best approach is. Because that's kind of the issue here for Dark. Yeah, this is counterable, but also, he doesn't know what he's playing against. He doesn't really know what... Ooh, is he gonna... Okay, he's gonna be able to deny that. Really good for Zoun. He can't scout. That's the issue. When you go up against the Protoss who goes for a Void Ray first, they're going to be able to deny all Overlord scouting. So unless Dark commits to Overlord speed, I don't think he can really figure out what he's playing against. And therefore, he kind of has to go for like a jack-of-all-trades type of approach that would work against the majority of Protoss follow-ups. Now, interestingly enough, that is not what this is right here for Dark. He's decided to go into a quick Spire. Maybe he's seen the second Void Ray and decided, yo, I can probably get away with this. But it's a bit weird. Like, normally, you only go for these upgrades and those units in general, including the Void Ray, when you want to go for a timing attack. That's how this has historically always been played. These upgrades also have roughly the same time to produce, with +1 Zealots 2-shot Zerglings rather than 3-shot them, assuming the Zerglings don't have any armor upgrades. So... it is a straight-up strength improvement, but I think Zoun is just going to sit back. He's not actually going to be aggressive with this. Well, Mutas are coming up right now for Dark. Dark losing that 4th hatchery is actually quite annoying for him. He's decided to double expand because of it. Zerglings around the bottom, Zerglings around the left, Zerglings in the middle. It is going to be 13 Mutas here eventually, but it'll be a while. Now Dark sees the charge slots, and look, he sees the charge slots, immediately starts up Roach production. Dark's thinking, yo, this is an all-in. Like, it's really the only thing that makes sense. Still though, he made the Mutas already, may as well give it a shot. I think Zoun is gonna go for a push, mostly just to try and deny the 4th hatchery again. This time around though, he finds the queens protecting it, and those queens are not paid attention to at all, because Dark is busy microing over here. He was also trying to keep his base up on the north of the map, just to try and see, yeah, if the Zealots could get intercepted. Now Zoun got all of those queens and the hatchery too. Still though, he's losing a lot of probes at home. And obviously, this is now a bit of an awkward spot. There's no detection in his army. 0 detection at all. As a matter of fact, yeah, we have a Robo right now. I think we could have produced one. Probably would not have been a bad idea. 4th Nexus, though, is done here for Zoun. And while this all feels uncomfortable... There's the Observer. This all feels very uncomfortable. It actually seems to be quite a solid build across the board here for Zoun. Imagine if he didn't lose 14 probes. Like, the probe count is still pretty much even. Both players are going to be sitting at 69 now. Nice! Sorry. Mutas are still going to town, but like despite losing all of those workers, he's okay. And now the fleet beacon starts up. It's a funky build order. And I really don't know if it's good. Like, I would like to see, say, Zoun go up against Serral with this build. See what Serral does against it. The jury is still not entirely out on whether or not this is actually a good Protoss strategy. But it seems to be working. And obviously, we've had a lot of builds over the years. Strategies that appear to be extremely good at first glance. And then, as time goes by, Protoss players just never play them anymore because they realize, oh, wait a second. It is actually pretty straightforward for the opponent to get rid of it. So far, though, that doesn't seem to be a case yet. But that's also because Zoun is the only one playing this. Ooh, careful. No. No. Way too ambitious. Okay. There's Mama. And Mama is the nail in the coffin. Well, maybe that sounds mean. What I'm trying to say is that Mama is the drop in the bucket It's a large drop in a small bucket that generally lets the entire bucket overflow. Because in order to counter it, Dark really needs a Spire. Now, his economy is not terrible, but it's not great. Maybe he can even it up a little bit. Yeah, okay. This is actually a nice little attack, though, because it's going to force a recall on at least some of the units, and the rest of the Protoss army also went back home. Second Stargate coming up. So, Zoun is trying to make a Skytools transition. Dark forced to move around the map with this Road Ravager army. I quite like, though, that Zoun is actually experimenting with these type of builds. Generally, the way we see that go in StarCraft, at least over all the years, is that the race that's struggling, and in this matchup right now, I think it's safe to say that Zerg is the one struggling. Usually, it's the race that's struggling that experiments with new build orders. Zoun has perfectly valid, really powerful builds that he can always just play that are winning Protoss players games a lot of the time. And the fact that he's like, you know what, yeah, I could do that, but also I could just not. Like, I could just go and do something else. I respect it. Fun to see. Okay, Lurker Den coming up. Second Evo chamber here as well for Dark. We have Adrenal Glands, but, and this is a big issue, he does not have a Spire. Well, he had the Spire from earlier, but he doesn't really have the money here to make a ton of Corruptors all in one go. Maybe it's okay. Maybe this is actually very playable now. Yeah, keep in mind that Zoun lost a lot of probes throughout this game. Yeah, he's lost 17 workers. And that actually makes all of this quite manageable, I think, for Dark. If it wasn't for those Mutas going in, I think I would have favored this game for Protoss. Right now, I think in my mind it's relatively even. So we're going to have to see a bit of a macro late game here. Nanomuscular Swell coming up for the Hydralisks. Everybody's favorite upgrade name. I had somebody go in the YouTube comment section saying something along the lines of, well, Lowko, actually, it's a lore-accurate name. Look, I don't know what the nanomuscular swelling is swelling, but I also don't believe that I want to know. Ooh, counterattack here from the Zerg, though, is killing the Nexus. No cancel on that one. Push over here at the bottom as well. Dark's army is looking absolutely massive. He's now also going into a Nidus network. Counterattack with Zealots. Main army of Protoss is going through the center of the map. Zoun is going to give up on that expansion at the bottom, and instead he wants to engage over here up north. Already, though, Spore Crawler's waiting. He needs to be a lot more committed if he wants to get that job done. Instead, he decides to recall back home. But that does mean that Dark just shut down 2 bases. The one over here that was still building, and the one at the bottom as well, that was up and running for quite a long time already. So great movement here by Dark, getting an awful lot of value. Now trying to make a transition towards Infestors. So he's got 2 Vipers. This is an interesting approach, actually, against this Protoss army. He's going for Neural Parasites rather than what we normally see in this matchup, and that is a transition into Corruptors with Vipers for support. He did go for Vipers, but instead he's going for more anti-air, and he's going for what seems to be into, yeah, a bunch of Infestors here. Looked like a moment there, for just a moment there, we're gonna have a full base race. Then Zoun decided to use his recall ability, go back home. And yeah, I've been impressed with the way that Zoun makes those decisions oftentimes. He's actually very good in those never seen before type of situations, you know, where you're trying to make the right call. Zoun decided to just nope out of there nice and early. This is now giving Zerg a lot of time, though, to prepare for whatever they want. Now, he's got Neural Parasite finishing up, but he doesn't actually have any Infestors yet. He needs a lot more gas. Another Stargate. +2 air weapons also coming up. Double Forge Research. In the meantime, we have double Evo Chamber as well, together with that +2 in the Spire. Again, though, we have no flying units here for Zerg. Other than maybe a leftover Muta or 2. No, all of them are dead. We have Vipers, but they don't benefit from the +2. Well, maybe they do, but they don't have any attacking animation, so. A bunch of Zealots getting donated. Okay. We've got ourselves a very curious macro game here. Protoss is trying to go for the full bulldozer army. Dark is trying to go for the full backstab approach. So his plan is to mostly tear apart this Protoss player by hitting him at many different angles at once. Zerg is far more mobile than Protoss is at this point, and Nanomuscular Swell, the lunge ability for those Hydras, is indeed going to be quite useful. He also has that Nidus network available. We had a group of Overlords moving towards the bottom right. I was thinking maybe he wants to go for Overlord drops or something along those lines, but apparently Zoun has decided that it is time for him to commit. And my question is mostly, is there enough Zerg to actually hold on against this full bulldozer Protoss approach? These armies are just about to collapse. Spore Crawler's coming up. Neural Parasite is available. Infestors, though, well, they're spawning only just now. They're not going to have enough energy for Neural just yet. Give him another half minute or so. Oh, great feedbacks. Good snipes over here as well with the Tempest. That's both of the Vipers going down for free. Well, a little bit of energy in the High Templar, but I'm thinking that's a trade he wants to make any day of the week. Archon's getting a little overly aggressive. Zerg now going in for the counterattack. It's an awkward army to be counterattacking with. New Vipers are coming up. Yeah, Zoun wanted to go home, but then he decided, maybe I don't need to. Do we have any High Templar at home? I don't think so. He's actually maxed out right now, so Zoun can only warp in 3 Zealots, which is not a whole lot. Dangerous. He's dancing on the other side, though, with the Tempests. Where's those Infestors? We have 7 of them. They're coming back home right now. We have the Time Warp getting popped down. Cloaking has been activated already. There we have 1. I don't like that, man. I kind of feel like you need to get all of the units in one go. Now, the story, well, is pretty obvious for Zoun. Like, you know that at this point there's going to be Neural Parasite available, so it's something you need to take into consideration. No more surprises. Dark decided to unwrap his own present for Zoun. It's like, look at what I got you. Look at what it is. That's not why we wrap presents, Dark. It's supposed to be the other guy who's like, surprise. Like, come on, man. Zealot run by up north. That hatchery did, of course, go down. Zerg army's looking pretty menacing, but I'm liking this force here for Zoun a lot. He's got a good army. He's got enough unit-producing structures to quickly remax as well. He's unlikely to really get entirely shut down because, keep in mind, Dark doesn't have Corruptors. No Corruptors in the army means that he's never going to be able to just collapse on top of the Skytle's army and then immediately counterattack. I think Dark is just going to slowly die. Now, I would like to be wrong, but that seems to be the general way that PvZ goes these days. I'm not sure exactly what Zerg should do here. Dark is basically hoping that he can have the entire Protoss army march up a ramp and then Neural Parasite it and then activate all of the Lurkers to attack at the same time and then, ta-da, everything's dead. But as long as Zoun doesn't close his eyes for too long, and as long as his keyboard is plugged in, I think he should be okay. I would like to be wrong, but, It is Dark, though. Never count him out. He does have a really strong army. This is basically the best army he can make. Neural Parasites. Okay. Yep. That's 2 Tempests, 3 Tempests, changing sites. Not bad at all. Sloppy move by Zoun. Gonna lose a High Templar as well. Where's the Hydras? Awkwardly waiting. Okay, he's gonna send them over to Spore Crawlers instead. The Hydras join in. Excellent play here by Dark. Zoun, though, not deterred, immediately remakes them, moves up towards the high ground, kills another hatch. This game actually could go on for a lot longer, because I think Dark wants to camp behind static defense if he can. I say that, he doesn't have a lot of money, so he does need another hatchery to properly pull that off, and that's why he's trying to secure another base here in the far bottom right. In the meantime, though, Zoun has been securing expansion after expansion already, and he is looking very secure. Wouldn't mind seeing him actually produce maybe another hatchery, or a Protoss hatchery right over there. He's also going to now donate probes. This is one of the worst moments if you're Dark here. The entire game you've been trying to deny the Protoss economy, and then Zoun is like, here, take them. I want it to be sitting at 69. Nice. I wanted to be sitting at 69 workers again. The good old days. Dark Shrine, +1 armor for the flying units. We have all of the good stuff coming up here for Zoun. Dark is not sacrificing his drones so much, but he is, well, building them into spore crawlers instead. Oh, yoink. Do you think that's a promotion if you get to become a spore crawler? Punishment or promotion? Those lurkers have to be real careful. That's a lot of lurkers, by the way. 21 lurkers. I mean, they're also there to keep the Hydra safe. Love the revelation here. Neural again! I mean, that's one way to try and counter the Protoss army. Just turn all of their expensive troops in your favor. Zoun is losing even more Tempest. Dark baits out. The Storm's over there too. Additional Infestors coming up. This is never going to beat the Mothership. Keep in mind that the Mothership can no longer be abducted. She cannot be neuraled. None of that is viable. And despite having some phenomenal exchanges there, Dark has still lost more resources than the Protoss. He's now sitting at only 49 drones. I'm a little surprised Dark has been researching flying upgrades without ever actually making flyer units. So he had those Mutas, yes, but I'm assuming he's gonna make a mass transition to Corruptors at some point. Maybe that's the plan. Couple of Hydras here with the counterattack being a nuisance. Zerglings up north, going after that Nexus at the 12 o'clock. That's now also where the majority of the Protoss army is headed. Robo Bay coming up, as I'm thinking about maybe making a few... Yeah, maybe a few Colossi. Not a bad idea, actually, against this type of army. Don't think we want to go Disruptors, although also technically viable. Just very difficult to control properly. I think the Mothership should join with the with the Tempest rather. When the Tempest move forward to snipe units at a distance, I think the Mothership should join them as well, so you can pop the Cloaking Field and all the other spells too. I think it's way safer that way. Shadow Stride coming up. War Prism speed coming up. We have the Observer speed as well. We have all of the upgrades. Zoun is shopping right now like he's never gonna run out of money, but honestly, this game is likely going to be decided with the main engagements, and when you keep losing units like that for practically free, it is getting extremely costly. Nidus Worm now as well in the back. That one, though, is gonna get shut down. Zealot is not going to achieve much. Big recall. Okay. So what's the win condition here for Dark, though? That's the main question we gotta ask ourselves, right? Like, Zoun is still gobbling up the entire map. He's not really in a rush. Dark is basically hoping that Zoun is going to be stepping onto creep and taking a horrible engagement. Because Zoun doesn't have... He doesn't have a lot of urgency here. He doesn't really need to be too aggressive. Dark's the one who needs a new base. Now Zoun keeps on ramming his head at the front door, which I don't think is the right choice. I really think he should go for the outer expansions instead and try to bleed the Zerg player out. Although he's not really in a rush. A lot of photon cannons now on the back of this. Zoun will have an easy way to retreat. Neural Parasites, we need detection. Observer is here. Keep in mind that the Neural Parasite can be used while the Infestors are burrowed. The other spells for the Infestors cannot. I mean, Microbial Shroud, being able to use it from burrow, that would be way too overpowered. Dark Templar, used as glorified zealots right now. Revelation has been used, though. Good feedbacks. Great feedbacks there by Zoun. Feedback does outrange the Infestors, so with good positioning, you should be able to snatch every single one of them, assuming you can see the Infestors on the ground. Observer needs to be leapfrog forward. Okay, one of them does come in. Infestors are dying, though, and that is expensive. One Tempest maybe, but also a whole lot of Infestors on the ground. Zergling run by being a nuisance, but there is, well, enough damage here in those Dark Templar to stop that base from dying. It's not like it's really that important of a base anyway. No mining going on there. And it seems to me that Dark is slowly dying now. He's slowly losing this match. He needs to get something done, but what exactly do you do? Where do you go? Well, apparently we're going to go into Corruptors. He still has some money. Great feedbacks there again by Zoun. I feel like that's really a highlight in his play. That and the weird build order. That and then also the crazy late game decision making. But we've seen a lot of Protoss players be reasonably lax when it comes to their High Templar control. Zoun does not have that issue. Now, he does have an issue that his High Templar are now without energy, so maybe he should go home. In the meantime, those Dark Templar that were defending the base at home have found a base as well in the bottom right-hand corner. And Dark realizes that there's really nothing he can do. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on Ultra Love. Player in red, spawning on the blue side of the map. Player in blue, spawning on the red side of the map. Now, because I'm a grown man, I will not comment on that, and I will not point out how cursed that is at all. Definitely doesn't bother me. I don't know why you would even suggest that that would bother me at all. Stargate opener, once more for Zoun. I'm assuming it's going to be a Void Ray. And then into charge. I can't really figure out an obvious weakness in Zoun's playstyle. That's the thing about the build. Usually whenever somebody comes up with a new build or like something that looks new, maybe it's something that used to be played back in the day, but usually when something like that appears in the game again, there is a very blatantly obvious weakness. Oh well, Zoun this time around going for an Oracle first, not into a Void Ray. Anyway, with that weird Void Ray into Void Ray into Oracle into Void Ray into Charge Slots into Storm into Skytoss, yeah, it feels... I don't think there's really a whole lot. I don't think there's really a whole lot that Zerg can do to really abuse it. Now, back in the day, a lot of Zerg players would default to playing Roach Ravager Ling Bane. Roach Ravager Ling Bane would be a good unit composition against that particular Protoss style. But it's pretty garbage against the more common Protoss build orders. And that's exactly why Zoun is also mixing it up quite a bit. So now he's going into a much more normal approach. Oracle into Oracle. We should see a third Nexus. 3 minutes and 50. Yep. It's about a second late, but it's also a pretty fast second Oracle. Pretty quick second Gateway too, so by no means a bad setup here for Zoun. But yeah, Zoun is constantly making the opponent's guess as to what sort of approach he's going to go for. And therefore, Dark can't really possibly be making the decision that he needs to make in order to actually counter one of the styles. He needs to go for a middle-of-the-road approach that's good against, at least at like a baseline level, against every single Protoss army. So be it Ling Hydra, be it Roach Ravager, be it Roach into Muta, or something along those lines. But he can't just commit to like a full-on counter against any of these Protoss build orders, because he just can't reliably get the vision. Unless, and I've been wondering about this, unless you go into Overlord speed. Overlord speed really is the way you can figure that out, but Overlord speed also cuts into your Queen production, and Queen production is already quite, like the early game for Zerg in general is already very vulnerable. So I don't think you can really get an additional bunch of resources spent on something that is, again, not focused on economy. Especially not when Protoss most of the time goes Oracle into Blink, and in that case you scout literally the most common build ever, and it just doesn't, yeah, it doesn't really do you much favor. So it's tricky. It is very tricky. Like in isolation, when you look at the games, you're like, well, this is what they should have done. Like, yes, but also, on the whole, probably no. I feel like that's something that's quite difficult to explain. One of the most common reactions I see is like, why didn't the pro gamer just do X, Y, or Z? It would have been amazing against, well, this particular style. Yeah, like it would have been great, but also there's a lot of other options as to strategies go, right? Like there's only so many things you can really see in a game. Like we have perfect vision. As viewers of the game, we can see everything that's happening. Pro gamers, They don't see the production tab. They don't have map hacks. Blinky coming up together with +1. +1 melee here as well now for Dark, who's going for Hydraling Bane. Full Hydraling Bane. He's been playing a pretty greedy match. Skipping out on the Roach Warren and everything too. Keep in mind that in the previous match, Dark ended up losing the 4th hatch. I didn't really talk about it too much, but the 3 Void Rays going across the map and killing the 4th hatch really did take the game down a notch. Like, it slowed the match down a ton. Zoun is thinking though, yo, let's just go for an all-in, get this entire best of 3 series over with right here, right now. Blink together with +1. We have a ton of stasis wards. Queens are already using up their energy. Great blink control here by Zoun. Stasis ward, yep, does get triggered. Probe is still here as well. More stasis is up on the high ground. Zerglings, though, are strong here, right? Especially with +1. +1 is still a little ways away. But that's going to make these type of attacks significantly easier to hold. And this is one of those spots where Dark is benefiting from delaying or just skipping entirely that Roach Warren. So he doesn't have a Roach Warren, meaning that he can make like an extra 8 links or so. It doesn't sound like a ton, but it really does add up. And it saves a single drone as well that can continuously mine. And every minute or so it would produce another 2 Zerglings worth of resources. This is a very tight early game though. I think Dark has the stuff. Yeah, I think Dark ultimately has the stuff that he needs. Imagine, though, if this would not have been a Blink Stalker follow-up, but instead it would have been a Glaive to Depth follow-up. What would Dark be able to do against that? And that's where, like, these early games from the Zerg, like, it's very delicate, and yes, he seems to be holding here, but also, he already cut 7 corners in order to get to this point, and it's still not really that clear of a hold. Obviously, you could still defend against Glaive to Depths as well, with Ling Bane, with Ling Queen, but it's all very finicky. I think Zoun is not going to be able to stay for much longer, though. He's going to continuously warp in, but +1 melee is done. Hydras now have their upgrades, too. And Hydras in a one-on-one engagement here will certainly win. Still, they're off creep. Dark doesn't want to overextend. He knows that he can get chased down pretty easily by those Blinky boys. Baneling speed, just about to finish up. Oracle swoop in. They've been using up their energy on stasis wards. Okay. Charge now coming up here for Zoun, together with the +2. He's building a 4th Nexus. That one's just about to finish up. Dark finished his 4th hatchery up quite a long time ago. Only just now began mining it, though. Zoun actually ahead economically here. There's the Storm upgrade again. The window for the Hydraling is closing. As soon as Storm and Charge is done, it'll be very difficult for Dark to get, well, really anything done with even Banelings, Hydras, Zerglings, all of this. So he needs to commit, and he needs to commit soon. You know what? He may have just found a way to corner those Stalkers. Stalkers were taking a very odd way back home. Okay, they decide to recall instead. That does mean that like another 3 or so of them end up going down before they ultimately make it home. I think Dark should go. Yeah. Knocks the rocks down. There we go. Get rid of those. Banelings are morphing in. 40 of them in total. Yep. Dark is reading this game perfectly. He knows that he needs to get it over with quick. He also knows, though, that it's going to be very committed. If he doesn't deal significant damage with this attack, it is over for him. Storm is now revealed. Banelings are starting to slip through. Zoun just doesn't have the numbers. GG. And that means that it all comes down to El Dorado. Final game in this best of 3 series. We'll have to see where the players decide to expand to. We have the base over here at the bottom. Dark is a big fan of it. Dark always goes for this base, and I feel like he never wins on this map. But he always goes for the 3rd base down over here on the low ground. No, he did win that one game where he went... Oh, I think it was against Cure. He went Swarm Hosts against a Bio Terran, And he launched a wave of Locust over here and denied the 2-2 research because the engineering base were located right over there. I feel like every other game, though, that I've seen Dark play on this map, he doesn't win. So let's see if maybe this is going to go a little bit better. We've seen a lot of Zerg players favoring the vertical third bases instead. It is perfectly viable, but it is very... I mean, it's very in character here for Dark, right? To go for the much more aggressive version. Especially with this this base right next to this pile of gold. All of the copper coins and the gold coins. We have a pearl necklace over here. Whew! That's stylish. I don't think I'm stylish enough to pull off a pearl necklace. But I feel like Dark could do it, you know? Void Ray again for Zoun. Now, do you think... This is a working theory of mine. Every time Zoun goes for Oracle first, he goes into Blink. Every time, though, he's going for Void Ray first, he goes into Charge. I don't know if that's true. And we may need to see a little bit of mixing and matching there, because opponents can start hard countering that if they can read those sort of tendencies. So this is Void Ray into Oracle. There's the Twilight Council, no Forge. I think this is going to be for Charge. Charge and then into Storm. That will likely be the follow-up here for Zoun. Yep. There we go. Both players reducing the size of the map to just the bottom. Technically, they can still take the expansions, but usually the fourth base for Protoss is going to be over here. Fourth base for Zerg is going to be over there. And usually we fight for the expansion at the bottom, making this the smallest map in the current map pool, despite it being very large. Yeah. Okay. Yep, Charge. It is going to be Charge. Every time. I don't know if it's true, because I haven't really seen that many Zoun games, I guess, compared to some of those other Protoss players out there. This is one of the reasons why you see a lot of the top dogs not really sharing a lot of their replays, not really sharing a lot of their games, because they don't want anybody to figure out their tendencies. My god, look at them taking turns. Dude, this is kind of beautiful. This is some performative art over here for the Void Ray. That was probably some sort of social commentary there, that despite having no anti-air, everything is still out of reach. There's probably some sort of commentary there over societal classes. I don't know what was going on, man, but that was kind of beautiful. The Zerglings just waiting for their turn to get hit in the face. Jeez Louise. I feel inspired. All right. Extra gateways coming up. Dark. Ooh, Dark wants to go for an all-in. Dark, you're going all-in against somebody who's going Void Ray Zealot. Now, normally Void Ray Zealot is the all-in. Like we've already figured out, Zoun is not actually playing this as an all-in, but he can still use this defensively. I don't think this is good for Dark. He's got way more supply, yes, but also Charge is done. You never expect Charge at this stage in the game. Zealot's being microed. First time I've ever seen that. The Void Ray, though, did not get microed. So, you know, that's something. Queens, though, are already taking a beating, and I'm just not so sure that the Zealots are really going to be stopped. Charge is going to come off cooldown every few seconds. They can use it again to catch up with those, well, leftover Zerg units. That was easy for Zoun. Would have been even better if he didn't lose the Void Ray. I think he should have avoided that. Anyway. Big Zealot warp in as well on the back of this. And even though this wasn't the original intention of Zoun, he is just going to charge through. Yeah. So not only is this an excellent build to be playing a macro game with, it is also one of the absolute best ways to defend practically any early game aggression. Maybe not so much a Ling Bane bust, but when's the last time you've seen a Ling Bane bust in a pro level game? GG.